The moment Judge Eleanor Briggs said, "Before we begin, we will review a family video," my daughter's face emptied out like someone had turned off a light behind her eyes. Megan Mercer Cole kept her shoulders squared the way she must have practiced, but her fingers betrayed her. Trembling against the polished wood of the plaintiff's table, she did not look at me. She stared at the blank screen at the front of the courtroom, as if she knew exactly what was buried inside that black rectangle. I sat behind the defense table, next to a woman I had met only once, Ava Morales, to the judge, to the court reporter, to the people watching from the gallery. Ava was the defendant in a defamation case. To me, she was the stranger who had written a line on the internet that cracked open 19 years of silence. Everyone else thought they were about to see a harmless home movie. My family always filmed everything: birthdays, holidays, casseroles on cheap tablecloth. Smiles, posed and stiff. Nothing dangerous there. Across the aisle, Ava's attorney, Harper Lane, rose smoothly. "Your Honor, Exhibit A is ready," she said. Her voice was calm, patient, like she had shepherded 100 frightened people through this kind of moment. Judge Briggs nodded once. "Proceed." A court technician adjusted a cable. The lights dimmed just enough to make the screen glow when it came to life. In the shifting half-dark, I heard Megan whisper to her lawyer, "Make them stop it." The words thin and ragged around the edges. A sound rose in my chest, small and sharp, the way it had the first time. Not the memory of the carpet under my hands, not the burn in my lungs, not even her voice telling me to gasp. Just the feeling of being very sure I was going to die in a room where no one moved to help. I blinked hard and forced myself to stay in the present. 3 weeks earlier, I had been alone in my small apartment in Seattle's Beacon Hill neighborhood, reshelving the stack of paperbacks that always gathered by my reading chair. Retirement from the public library had left me with too much time and a habit of putting everything in alphabetical order. The knock on the door that afternoon was firm and official. When I opened it, a courier handed me a stiff envelope stamped with the seal of King County Superior Court. Inside, on crisp white paper, was my name, and beneath it, in bold letters, my daughter's. The envelope sat on my kitchen table like it carried something alive inside it. Heavy, official. My name typed in clean black ink. I opened it slowly, the paper stiff beneath my fingers, and read the heading, King County Superior Court. Beneath it, in bold letters, was the plaintiff's name, Megan Mercer Cole, my daughter. The subpoena ordered me to appear as a witness in her defamation case against a former employee named Ava Morales. I reread the document twice before noticing a stapled memo, Ava's defense brief. My eyes snagged on a single line, highlighted in yellow. Ask her mother what happened the day she could not breathe. I sat very still. My thumb trembled against the page. Only 4 people had been in the house that night. Megan, Paul, me, and the version of myself who had believed families did not abandon their own. No one else had ever known. No one else had ever cared enough to ask. I turned the page over slowly, half expecting it to burn. The sound of Paul's voice drifted back first. "Diane, stop it. You always make everything dramatic." Then Megan's footsteps, quick and irritated. Before she said something sharp I could not allow myself to fully remember yet. My lungs tightened at the edges. I closed my eyes and breathed through it. That evening, I called the number listed for Ava's attorney, intending to leave a polite message declining involvement. Instead, a young woman with a tired voice picked up. "This is Ava," she said. I hesitated. "You wrote something in your memo about breathing." A quiet beat passed. Then she spoke with a certainty that knocked something loose inside me. "I wrote it because your daughter did the same thing to me in a different form. Not an inhaler, but the same cruelty." I gripped the phone tighter. "How did you know what happened that night? I did not know the details," Ava said. I only knew there was a story she was terrified someone would uncover. Terrified. The words sat heavy between us. I told her I would think about whether I could help. As soon as I hung up, a flicker of memory flashed Megan, rolling her eyes, telling Paul, "Mom exaggerates because she likes attention." I steadied myself at the table, staring at the subpoena, the memo, the highlighted sentence that had no right to exist outside my own mind. Ruth Hanley opened her apartment door before I could knock twice. "You look shaken. Diane, come in," she said, ushering me toward her small kitchen table. She had always been direct. The kind of woman who did not need explanations to know when something was wrong. I set the subpoena down. "It is Megan," I said quietly. "She dragged me into some lawsuit." Ruth's mouth tightened. "I heard her yelling at you that night years ago. I never forgot that sound. Sharp, mean, like she wanted it to hurt." My breath caught. "You heard that I did. And I saw her through the window once, waving her hands, angry as fire. You were backed against the counter." Ruth folded her arms. "You told me later you two were just talking. I knew that was not true." Her words pushed something loose inside me. Memories snapped forward, fast and jagged. The birthday card I mailed for Lily's 10th birthday that never arrived. Megan's voice on the phone afterward. "Mom, you probably forgot to send it. Do not worry about it." The missed video calls with Lily, weeks at a time. Megan claiming Lily was busy, or tired, or studying. But Lily had always loved talking to me. The night I tried to refill my inhaler online and the pharmacy said, "Your daughter already picked it up." Megan had walked in moments later, holding the bag, smiling like she was doing me a favor. "You mix things up. Mom, let me handle it." Every piece slid into place, forming a pattern I had never let myself examine. The inhaler night was not a single cruelty. It was the shape of our entire relationship. Ruth watched my face. "What did she do to you?" "Diane, I do not know the whole truth," I said, my voice thin. "I think she worked very hard to keep it that way." Ruth hesitated, then added, "Do you remember that camcorder she always carried, the small silver one? She filmed everything, drove us all crazy with it. Said she was building a family archive." I nodded slowly. That camera had followed us through holidays, birthdays, arguments. All the moments Megan insisted were perfect. I had not thought of it in years. Ruth tapped a finger on the table. "People who film that much forget what they capture in the background." A quiet chill moved up my spine as the thought settled in. Ruth stood beside me in my storage closet as I pulled down an old cardboard box marked "Holiday" in fading marker. The box sagged when I lifted it, dust drifting off the edges. Beneath a pile of tangled ribbon and chipped ornaments lay a small silver camcorder and a thick external hard drive. A label in Megan's handwriting read, "Mercer Family 2005 to 2008. Ruth let out a low exhale. "That is the one she used at every birthday. Drove us all crazy." I held the camcorder carefully. I never watched anything she recorded. She said they were for later. Ruth touched my arm. Maybe later has finally come. That afternoon, her son Ethan arrived. He was 33, gentle-voiced. A man who moved with the calm precision of someone who spent long hours fixing other people's mistakes. He set his laptop on my coffee table and connected the hard drive. "I cannot promise anything," he said, scrolling through directories. "Old files sometimes break themselves over time." Ruth squeezed my shoulder. "Just try, sweetheart." Ethan paused. "Here's something, a folder called REC 042. It looks corrupted." The name meant nothing to me, but something in my chest tightened. Ethan tapped a few commands, and after a moment the screen flashed to life. The first frame appeared. Not movement, just a still image burned in time. Me, on the carpet, my hand reaching toward something off screen, my throat closed. I grabbed the edge of the table as the room tilted. Ethan's voice softened. "Mrs. Mercer, do you want me to stop?" "No, I whispered. Just lower the volume. He clicked again. There is also an audio file saved separately, probably recorded by accident. He pressed play. Megan's teenage voice burst through the speakers, sharp, careless, unmistakably hers. Just let her crawl. She always exaggerates. My knees buckled. I sat down hard. Both hands pressed to my face. I was not crying from the memory. I had survived the memory. What broke me was the proof, her own words, preserved without her meaning to, surviving years she tried to rewrite. Ethan stopped the audio. This was not supposed to be found. I nodded, breath shaking as I stared at the screen that had once been my living room floor, realizing this was only one file out of hundreds. If this survived by accident, what else had my daughter tried so hard to hide? Ava Morales chose a quiet corner table at a cafe in Fremont, her hands wrapped around a mug she had not touched. She stood when I walked in, offering a small, uncertain smile. "Mrs. Mercer," she said softly, "thank you for meeting me." "It is Diane," I told her as I sat, "and you wrote something in your memo that has not let me sleep for days." Ava glanced down, bracing herself. "The line about breathing." "Yes," I said. "No one was supposed to know that." Ava drew a slow breath. "My grandmother, Dorothy Torres, knew your mother for more than 40 years. They volunteered together. They talked almost every day. Dorothy heard things, small things at first. Your mother's confusion about why you never called. Questions she felt she was not supposed to ask." I gripped the edge of the table. "My mother thought I abandoned her. Megan told her that." "She did," Ava replied quietly. "Dorothy overheard Megan bragging once. She said she had learned how to manage her mother. Said it was easier when people believed you were unstable." The words landed with a clean, sharp slice. Ava leaned forward. I did not know the details of the incident, only that there was a moment Megan feared someone might uncover. When your name appeared in court records, Dorothy told me to trust that thread. I nodded slowly. My pulse had begun to steady. "You did trust it." "I did," she said, "and I am glad you found that video." Before I could speak, a woman approached the table, tall, composed, carrying a slim leather folder. "Mrs. Mercer," she asked. "I am Harper Lane, Ava's attorney." We shook hands. Harper sat, opening her folder with practiced efficiency. "I am going to be direct. The video is admissible. The audio, too. But we need your testimony to contextualize it." "My testimony," I echoed. "Adult Protective Services will only intervene if a pattern can be established." Harper continued, "You provide that. And Diane, Megan filed a motion yesterday claiming you are mentally unfit to testify." My chair scraped against the floor as I straightened. Ava reached for my hand. Harper watched me over steepled fingers. "She is afraid of what you will say." Heat rose through me. Not fear this time. Not grief. Something steadier. Something fierce. "I will testify." I said. "She does not get to silence me again." Harper nodded once, closing her folder. "Then we begin." The courthouse steps felt taller than I remembered. I gripped the rail as I climbed, Harper Lane matching my pace beside me. Inside the lobby, the echo of voices rose and fell, attorneys greeting each other, clerks calling names. The sound of a world that had gone on without me. Harper touched my elbow lightly. "You are doing fine, Diane." Fine was not the word I would have used. Megan arrived moments later, polished and radiant in a pale blue blazer, the picture of a devoted community leader. She held Lily's hand tightly, guiding her forward like a prop she had rehearsed with. Lily looked confused, her eyes darting between us. When she spotted me, she offered a small wave before Megan pulled her closer. Paul trailed behind them. He kept his gaze on the floor until I stepped into his line of sight. Only then did he lift his head, offering a stiff nod that held more apology than greeting. Before I could respond, Harper's phone buzzed. "Mrs. Mercer," she said. "You have a new voicemail." My name looked unfamiliar on her screen. I pressed play. Megan's voice spilled out, soft and controlled. "Mom, listen, there is no need to involve yourself. You mix things up. And I do not want you embarrassed on the stand. If you care about our family at all, you will stay quiet. Do not make this worse. For anyone." Harper's eyebrows lifted. She recorded a threat in her own voice. "It is how she speaks to me," I said. But as I heard it aloud, something inside me locked into place. There it was, the same tone she had used for decades, shaped to sound like concern, but carried by the weight of command. "Forward it to me," Harper said. "The judge will want to hear that." When we entered the courtroom, Megan slipped instantly into character. She guided Lily to a seat, smoothing her hair, whispering something tender to the observers. She looked like a daughter protecting her fragile mother from a difficult process. I felt Harper lean toward me. "They will try to paint you as frail," she murmured. "Do not let them." I lifted my chin, the memory of Megan's voicemail still burning through my ribs, and took my seat at the defense table. Judge Eleanor Briggs adjusted her glasses. "We will proceed with Exhibit A," she announced. The recovered family video. A quiet tremor ran through the room. Across the aisle, Megan lurched forward. "Please do not show that," she whispered, barely forming the words. Her attorney placed a hand on her arm, but she pulled away, eyes fixed on the blank screen, as if she could will it dark. Harper Lane rose. "Your Honor, the defense moves to admit the exhibit in full." "Granted," Judge Briggs replied. The technician pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A still frame appeared in my living room from nearly 2 decades ago. I heard Megan inhale sharply. Then her teenage voice burst from the speakers, sharp and bright with cruelty. "Look at her! She is so dramatic!" A murmur rippled through the gallery. I felt it more than heard it. The next frame flickered my body on the carpet. Reaching. Megan's voice again, laughing this time. Cold at the edges. Megan shot to her feet. "Turn it off. This is taken out of context. Turn it off." Judge Briggs slammed her gavel. "Sit down, Mrs. Mercer Cole." Lily began crying quiet at first, then shaking her head violently. "Mom, what is that? What did you do?" Paul reached for her, but she pulled her arm away, folding into herself. Harper stepped toward the jury box, her voice steady. "Your Honor, the audio file accompanying this recording will clarify intent. The clip played, 'Just let her crawl. She always exaggerates.'" Megan covered her ears. "Stop it!" she screamed. The judge's expression hardened. "Control yourself, or I will remove you." When the video ended, Harper guided me to the witness stand. My palms were damp, but my voice held. "I remember that night," I said. "I remember the look on my daughter's face, and I remember realizing no one was coming to help." Harper presented medical records confirming my asthma diagnosis, episodes documented since childhood, the refill irregularities tied to Megan's pharmacy pickups. Then she turned to Paul. "Did you witness this incident?" Paul's shoulders sagged. "I did," he said. "I saw everything. I did nothing." Megan whirled on him. "You never defend me." Not once in 20 years. Her attorney sank lower in his chair, flipping through notes with shaking hands. From the corner of my eye, I noticed a woman I had not seen before, a representative from Adult Protective Services writing rapidly in a small notebook. Her gaze never left Megan. Judge Eleanor Briggs returned to the bench with a stack of papers in her hands. Megan straightened, as if hope might still be possible, though her face was blotched from crying. "The court finds," Judge Briggs said, "that the defendant's statements were substantially true. The plaintiff's case is dismissed with prejudice." She lifted her eyes. "And the plaintiff will pay all legal fees incurred by Ms. Morales." Ava exhaled shakily beside Harper. Megan let out a small, strangled sound, part disbelief, part fury. The judge continued. "Additionally, video and audio presented today will be forwarded to Adult Protective Services for review." The gavel struck. Megan's knees bent as if the floor had shifted beneath her. Outside the courtroom, I approached Harper. "I want to file to revoke Megan's power of attorney," I said, immediately. "We already drafted the petition," Harper replied. "We will file it today." As we spoke, an APS investigator approached. She introduced herself, polite but firm. "Mrs. Mercer, we will need to speak with you privately regarding a potential pattern of financial manipulation." Megan overheard. "She is lying," she hissed. "Mom cannot manage her own affairs. I have been handling everything." The investigator raised an eyebrow. "We will determine that." 2 days later, Harper forwarded me an email from Megan's employer. They had received the court transcript. A representative came to my home to speak with me personally. We reviewed the evidence. She explained gently, "This behavior does not align with our organization's mission. Megan's employment has been terminated." I thanked her softly. She left, looking shaken. That evening, Paul arrived at Megan's house to pack a bag. Their voices carried through the front yard, Megan begging, then pleading, then raging. "You cannot leave me. I am the victim here." Paul's voice cracked. "I do not know who I married." The door slammed behind him. Within 1 week, APS concluded their inquiry. Megan's power of attorney was revoked. All accounts she had accessed were frozen. My finances would undergo a full audit. When the decision was delivered, Megan rounded on me, eyes wild. "You owe me everything. I sacrificed my entire life for you." I stepped closer, steady and calm. "You once took my breath." I said, "Today, I took back my life." The Mercer Fund began with a single signed form and a balance transfer of the assets. Adult Protective Services recovered money Megan once believed would always belong to her. I sat with Harper in her office as she filed the paperwork. "This will help a lot of people." "Diane," she told me. "I hope so." I said, "No one should have to fight alone." The fund would cover legal consultations, temporary housing deposits, and therapy for elderly victims pushed aside by their own families. For once, the air in my chest felt steady. A week later, Lily knocked on my apartment door. She stood holding a notebook to her chest. Her eyes rimmed red. "Grandma, can we talk?" she asked. I stepped aside. "Of course." She sat on my couch, hands twisting nervously. "Mom said you lied, but I saw the video. And I heard what she said to you in court. I do not understand who she is." "She is still your mother," I told her. "But the truth is not something I will hide anymore." "Will you tell me everything?" Lily whispered. "I will tell you what you are ready to hear," I said gently. "And you tell me when it becomes too heavy." "We set the boundaries together." She nodded, leaning into my shoulder. For the first time in years, I felt the shape of family settle around me without fear. Later that month, Harper invited me to speak at a support group in Capitol Hill adults who had survived financial or emotional abuse from their own families. I walked into a small circle of folding chairs and faces that looked far too familiar. When it was my turn, I said, "My daughter once held my inhaler and told me to gasp. Today, she gasps at the truth she tried to bury." A few people wiped their eyes. Others reached for my hand. I stayed with them for nearly an hour, listening to stories that mirrored pieces of my own. Months passed before the appellate court issued its decision. Harper called me with the news. They rejected Megan's appeal outright. The video made it impossible to argue. "Thank you," I said. Not triumphant, simply steady. That afternoon, I stood outside the courthouse alone, the same steps where everything began. I inhaled slowly, deeply without shaking. If this story resonated with you, like this chapter, leave a comment, and subscribe so more people can find their breath again. Some stories do not end with forgiveness. They end with freedom and the breath you were never meant to have back. When a woman finally breathes on her own terms, what new life can she build from the air she reclaimed?